Hey, I'm Friendly Baron and I've got a series called Casual vs Speedrun where I explained how the speedrun gains time over a casual playthrough and how every technique and trick they used works. In this video, I'm going to go over the risky strats we know about but don't use, and explain why they may not be used. In the mission Repossession, we shoot the gang member off his motorcycle right away through the fence, allowing the speedrun to immediately begin riding it to the end of the mission. This normally takes us on a route left and around the small Vespucci harbor along the main road as seen on the map. The risky strategy possible here is to instead head right and jump over the harbor, cutting a bit of length and turning off the route. The speedrun takes a right turn at this intersection and heads towards the edge of the water. As mentioned in previous videos, Franklin's ability doesn't help motorcycles turn very much, but it does help them do a wheelie, so we use that to get the front wheel up and bounce off the fence, fly over the water and land on the dock at the other side. If that looks easy to you, here's me messing it up a couple times. Not only is that landing zone very small, but getting the front tire up and getting the right bounce with all the curbs leading up to the jump is tricky to do consistently. That's how some of these strats are. People like Setback who found this route go looking for stuff, and something may work every now and then, but not really be feasible within the speedrun. My Baron score for this route is as follows. Success rate 10%. Basically every 1 in 10 tries it works. Time saved 2 seconds. That's right, that's all it saves if you get it perfectly, just 2 seconds off going left back at the other side. Potential time loss, 30 seconds. If you mess up and fall in the water, you have to respawn, then shoot the guy off the bike again and run over to his bike. It takes ages of time for that early in the speedrun. Overall, a fatty not worth is my rating for this strat, but it's fun to know that it exists. So next up, in pulling Favours, we normally pick up the car with the tow truck by pulling forward past it, reversing a moment to hook up, then take off over these steps that get curb boost which accelerate the truck faster. The fancy strat here is to instead slide the truck in from the back for the hookup and just drive away without slowing down as much. It feels extremely satisfying, but it's sadly not worth it. Traffic on the way back on this road instead of the one we normally take is often much more congested and filled with cross traffic like this bus. This means you have to take a sharper corner later on, and you either have to slow down or risk the car being towed fishtailing all over the road. This has a success rate of probably closer than 75% or more once you practice the slide, though a failed slide can result in more time loss, backing up or even getting the cops. The time saved is literally 0 seconds at best. If you do everything perfectly and you don't get a bus like I did, this route has tighter roads, you still slow down the spin around, and you save no time over the current normal strat. Potential time loss is on average 5 seconds, but if you mess up really badly at all, you could lose up to a minute like when you get cops or something. Overall, this too earns a nice not worth rating from me. 2 missions later in Complications, we normally drive from Simeon's dealership up the Michaels house as Franklin, and pull up to the front gate to hop over it after hitting a bunch of brake boosts to get here quickly. A new strategy was recently found by Burhack and Source where we can take a slightly different route to end up behind Michael's house, and jump into his backyard with the car instead of climbing over the gate. We start out the same but take an early right turn. You have to zigzag through the city in order to get to the road we want, but luckily there are lots of brake boosts here to keep up the speed approaching the jump. Hitting 2 brake boosts on the final straight is very important, and then fly up and jump out of the car, which then smacks us into the back wall safe and sound, just where we need to go to get to the truck to get onto the roof and continue the mission. Near mission triggers, the player is given an invincibility from most damage such as falling, so that's why you are safe to hit the wall at 100 miles per hour. To go off the jump, again you need to be at speed, then get the left side of the car as close as possible to this pole while aiming at this point on the house, so that Franklin lands near the truck and the car flies wide away from you. This has a success rate for me so far of about 50%. Some practice with the setup I just mentioned helps, but sometimes there is a car in the way like this which ruins the jump. Other times, something like this happens and you don't really have control over it. This is a newer strat, so we may be able to raise that success rate, and maybe find a good backup for when there's a car blocking us. The hardest part for me is forcing myself to jump out early enough. My instincts want me to stay in the car for as long as possible. The time saved is 8 seconds. The drive length is basically the same, but we skip getting over the gate and running up to the house to the side garage. Potential time loss is only 20 seconds usually, as if you spook the family with a bad jump, you are just respawned in the front of the house and can go over the old way. However, if you fail really badly, you are sent all the way back to Simeon's, which loses 60 seconds, which is basically speedrun ending this early into the game. Overall, this earns a maybe worth for me. If we can jump successfully around 90% of the time, and not have the really bad fails that send us back to the car dealership, you can expect to see myself and other runners start doing this risky backdoor jump. This strat is quick. Normally when going up the hill in marriage counseling, we slow down in order to maintain contact with the ground and get over the fence at the top. If you want to risk it, you can go slightly slower and stop on the close side of the fence, which still hits the trigger. This saves a tiny 1.5 seconds, and I can get it to work 90% of the time with focus. However, the time loss is up to 25 seconds because you fall back down the hill, and then have to take the slow way back up. I rate this a probably worth. It's easy to do and should be repeatable with practice. Just the first few times it's failed within a run are going to suck. You may be noticing a theme that about half of these strats are risky driving routes or crazy jumps, and this one fits too. Normally on friend request, when arriving to the Life Invader building, we simply use the yellow dot to stop us and climb over the wall. There is a very risky strat that involves jumping the bike into the air similar to Repossession earlier with the wheelie, and then jumping off the bike like Complications jump into the area of invincibility at the mission trigger. I have a success rate of like 5% on this. It is super inconsistent. It saves only 2.5 seconds, as the moment Michael begins to recover from the fall, it begins to start the mission. Potential time loss is 50 seconds. If you mess this up, you die and go back to the clothing store. Well, except for this one time I didn't die here, which was hilarious, but it's not the norm. I rate this absolutely not worth it. It's too darn risky. During Case in the Jewel Store, we usually jump back to the main roof from here. However, there is a chance you can save 2 seconds by jumping from up top. We don't do that because most of the time you lose 2 seconds, like the following demonstrates. A fan favorite is the jump onto the water tower. Normally, I jump to the right and park the ATV next to the ladder, using the gun to point Trevor in the right direction. You can be risky and jump directly onto the tower with the ATV like this, though it's only a 5% success rate or so, as getting the speed and angle just right is difficult. Plus, hoping the ATV doesn't knock you off when it bounces can be annoying. This saves 3 seconds when done with a normal hit, and the potential time loss is 5 seconds or so. I rate not worth, as it's just unlikely to happen, and the consistent jump up to the side is much better. Another runner once got very lucky and flung all the way to the top of the water tower with the ATV, just once. However, there's a possible new strat where we can use the ladder boost to fly up and float to the top like this. This was found the day of me making this video, and requires putting your game down to 60 FPS. Most PC speedrunners have around 100 to 120 FPS for smoother and faster gameplay, so locking the 60 for the whole run would not be worth this small save, and there's an open discussion on whether we should change the FPS mid-run at all. If you want to know more about the ladder boost, I'll link episode 16 of Casual for Speedrun in the description where I made a guide to do it. During Crystal Maze, we blow up the house with a grenade, throwing it with the quick throw option from the top of the stairs so we have plenty of time to run outside before everything explodes on us. There is a slightly faster option, like half a second, to throw the grenade at the bottom of the stairs, but when you do that, this often happens when exiting. Not worth it. One of the most iconic strats seen in the GTA V speedrun is the Blimp strat that happens 1 hour 40 minutes into the run. If you haven't seen it before, we call up the Blimp when starting this mission and bring it over to the observatory, and jump out into another one of those invincibility zones as Micro greets Davey just after. I wanted to include this to show how something that seems risky is actually not so bad. Before Blimp strat was found, we would steal a car and drive it up this route to go to the top of the hill. The car moves fast, but you aren't going in a straight line, and the off-roading kills speed. As well, no better vehicles than muscle cars tend to spawn in within the area we need to steal a car at. If super or sports cars spawned in, we wouldn't do Blimp strat, but there's basically nothing very fast that spawns in the Mirror Park area. Back to the Blimp, we have created a very robust method for jumping out. Heading over, we half throttle the Blimp to keep it at 1,120 feet on the altimeter. When the bottom of the window hits these stairs, we press full throttle and let go of the steering controls so the blimp rights itself horizontal. Then a moment later at the top edge of the stairs, we jump out, also having generally aimed the blimp so the speedometer is lined up with the stairs. Falling into the Davy zone, as I call it, is a bit random, but as long as you don't go too high, you won't take much damage at all. In fact, falling all the way down like this is unlucky, but seeing Michael pop up from the void is worth it. So the blimp strat has like a 95% plus success rate. These markers I just went over make it consistent, and the fact that it's moving so slow gives time to ensure you don't muck it up. The time save is 5 to 20 seconds. 5 seconds is the minimum we save over a theoretical good car, but on average you get like a taxi or slow SUV in this area, so that's 20 seconds to save with those. The potential time loss on the blimp is 90 seconds. If you die, you respawn at the hospital near Michael's house and have to drive back up, unless you make a save file right before jumping, as some new speedrunners might do. So I hope that helps explain why the blimp strat is absolutely worth it compared to some of the other time saves that are not worth it in this video. Also, it straight up scores a 10 out of 10 on the cool strat scale. In scouting the port, normally when doing the crates, we just do the crates. There's not much to it, besides wiggle boosting the dock handler a little bit to get it up to speed. There is a possible strat where you can push one crate with the other. You'll notice from the choppy video though, this requires lowering your game's FPS, generally to around 20. Lowering FPS mid-run is kind of clunky to do, similar to the ladder strat mentioned earlier. As well, the success rate on this pushing is only like 50% from what I've seen. I can't get it to work every single time. It does save 10 seconds though, which is quite a bit within this rather on-rails mission. If we had a way to have a hotkey to set our games to 20 FPS, it'd be worth doing, but if we had to tab out the lower FPS, that would negate the time save. The potential time loss is only like 2 or 3 seconds. If the crate doesn't push, you can just pick it up and drive away normally. Overall, I rate this maybe worth. Lots of the small time saves shown in this video and like this one haven't been used much, as the game is only just now getting optimized where these small saves matter. If the rules continue to allow FPS changing mid-run, this strat will be worth doing. As of this video, the best strategy we have for this section of I Fought the Law is to use Franklin's power to latch onto the side of the orange entity for a boost, then carry that speed into multiple brake boosts after. The ideal risky strategy would be to have the orange car push us the whole way. Out of 50 attempts, this one is the best I got. You have to use the power so much to stay in front, otherwise the pushes are too strong and knock you away. So that's about a 5% success rate, and I'm guessing it'd be about 15 seconds of time save, maybe, it's hard to tell. Same for the possible time loss, at least 15 seconds as well if you get spun, or more if it's a crash. Basically, this is really tough, and not worth it, yet. I want to keep practicing this. I think next time I'll mod the game to play at a really low speed, and then slowly speed it up to see if I can perfect it. For now, it's not worth it. At the end of the Paleto Score heist, we enter the chicken factory as Michael and proceed to do a shootout to the end to get on the train. The risky strategy available here is to do the shootout as Franklin. He's got no armor, and these enemies are tuned to spawn in and shoot like the player does have tons of protection, so it's kind of dangerous, but we do get a run much faster. It used to be unthinkable that we would use Franklin here, but both Burhack and I have improved enough that it's likely we will do it soon. This is actually Burhack playing this section for me, as he's better at this shootout. If you guys want to watch the person I'm battling for world record with, hit him up at twitch.tv/Burhack and be nice, smile. I'm gonna put the success rate at question mark. I'm guessing that with practice we can now do this every time and benefit from the lack of armor and slow movement, but we'll see. The time save is around 10 seconds, which is significant for only just a minute of gameplay. The time loss would be around 60 seconds though if you die. The most likely spot to die would be in the end here, but I like Burhack's idea to use the boxes as cover heavily. Usually in the armored suit as Michael we just stand in the open, which is a hard habit to break. So I rate this as probably worth it, learning to do this shootout as Franklin. Near the end of the game on the mission Lamar down, most sensible people drive down this valley to get to the main road below instead of following the twisted paved roads down. Sometimes I am not sensible and take this huge jump to get down to the mountain instead, and get to carry more speed and take a slightly more direct route. This works like 25% of the time. Of the other 75%, 50% of that time you just have a bad landing and lose a little bit of time, and 25% of the time you explode. Exploding is bad. This can save like 2 seconds at most. You do carry lots more speed, but the airtime slows you down a bunch. The time loss is anywhere from 5 seconds to 60 seconds depending on how bad you mess up. This is totally not worth it, but it's fun to do on runs that I am finishing for practice, even if they don't have a chance of getting a world record. Yo, thanks for watching. If you disliked this video, make sure you don't subscribe to my channel, otherwise you will see more videos like this one, and that'd just be terrible. I really enjoyed making this. Sorry for taking last week off, the heat wave got to me and I needed a break. I've been grinding hard on both YouTube and Twitch, and I'm also learning the San Andreas run so I can hopefully begin streaming and making Casual vs Speedrun of that soon, eventually one day when I'm not too nervous about it.